Hello, welcome back to my kitchen for a quick vlog update. And I thought that because we're nearly into Easter, if you're watching this in real time, it would be nice to have just a really quick chat about chocolate and which are the best types to eat. Because if you follow me regularly, you'll know that I'm not big into lots of sugar. I really prefer to eat low GI or low GLs, that's glycemic index or glycemic load. So trying to keep the sugars down. So does this mean no chocolate? Well, no, it doesn't. That's the good news. And in fact, if you look at all the things that I've been writing about for years and years, chocolate definitely plays a part, especially dark chocolate. Because the thing about dark chocolate from the cocoa bean is that it's one of the richest sources, if not the richest source, of polyphenols. And these are really gut-friendly ingredients. So it's positively good for us to eat a little bit of very dark chocolate. The other great thing about dark chocolate, high in cocoa solids, is that it's full of really good minerals as well. So I'll come on to those in just a minute. But just to give you an example, this is a recipe from my Good Gut Guide, for example, mini chocolate bites. So yes, you can find, for gut health, good chocolate ingredients. There's another really good recipe here. This is in my Good Menopause Guide, and I talk about eating low sugar when you're in menopause or perimenopause, because sugar can be very inflammatory and we just want to regulate that. We don't want to get those high insulin spikes peaking up and down. So this is another really nice one. This is chocolate coconut pots. I put this on my Instagram actually a little bit earlier. And this is dark chocolate. And when you're looking at dark chocolate, you're really looking at a cocoa solid that's around 70% or higher. So have a look at your ingredients on the label. Now, the good thing about chocolate is that it is usually marked quite clearly with the cocoa solids. So I've got one here. This is a milk chocolate. Milk chocolate, not that high in cocoa solids. This one is 37%. So always, if you're buying chocolate, turn the bar over and have a look and just see, and it'll say the percentage of cocoa solids in it. And you want to go higher, the higher the better. Do you know you can even get chocolate that's 100% pure cocoa solids? That means it's got no sugar, nothing else. Now I have to say that is really quite hardcore. It tends to be quite bitter, but you can find brands now like Montezuma, for example. They do one where they've got almonds mixed with it, which I think is great. You get the vitamin E and the prebiotic goodness of almonds, and they just kind of give a little bit of natural sweetness so it doesn't taste quite so bitter. So if you're new to this, I wouldn't suggest that you leap straight in with 100%, because the chances are you will find it really bitter and unpalatable. But just gradually work your way up. Don't dismiss it out of hand. Don't just say, oh, I don't like dark chocolate. It's too much for me. It's too bitter. I don't like it. It's too strong. See if you can re-educate your taste buds, because it's really worth it. So you might start with, say, a milk chocolate. That's 37%. And then you can work your way up. So for example, I've got one here. This is from a nice British brand called Salcombe Dairy. And it says it's a darker milk chocolate. So what does that mean? Well, looking at the label here, it says it's 54%. So I've already moved up from 37 to 54. So I'm over halfway. So I'm really getting there in terms of increasing those polyphenols. Then if you look at kind of things that are labeled dark chocolate, they do vary. So for example, this is a brand called Ritter. It says dark chocolate. So you think, oh great, that's good. That's going to be really high. So the dark chocolate here, it says cocoa solids 50%. Okay, well, I mean, that's reasonably dark, but it's not that dark, is it? 50%. So I'm not sure that one would go to top of my list. This one is a green and black swan, dark, and it says on there 70%. So now we're really getting into the dark stuff. You know, 70% and above is kind of what I say we should be looking at. Other brands, again, this is a Salcombe Dairy one. This is one of their dark chocolates, and it says it's 72%. So again, we're creeping up. So you see, just by reading the label, we can still have a little bit of the dark stuff and still have some healthy goodness as well. Now, of course, don't eat masses of it. But the great thing about darker chocolate is it tends to be so rich and really quite heavy that it's almost impossible to overeat. You know, a small square of dark chocolate, personally, I find so much more satisfying to satisfy any kind of sweet tooth or cravings than eating a whole bar of milk chocolate, which just spikes the sugar and at the end of the day leaves you feeling, well, actually, I want a bit more. So try and go darker. The other thing that you can look at, of course, is things like cocoa powder. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what's the difference between cocoa and cacao? It's not a misprint, it's not a spelling mistake. One is cacao with a C and the other one is cocoa with an O. So what's the difference? Well, they both come from the cocoa bean, but one is more highly processed. So cocoa powder tends to be processed at higher temperatures. So this takes out some of the nutritional goodness and it also takes away some of the bitterness. So that's why you can make, you know, hot chocolate, for example, with cocoa powder, and it's not quite as bitter as if you make it with cacao. So cacao, and you can get lots of different brands here. This is a nice one. It's 100% cacao powder. This is another one. You can find it in packets. It says organic cacao powder. And the great thing about cacao is that it retains more of those minerals. Because it's not heated to such a high temperature, when they process it, you get more of the nutritional value. So this one says it's rich in iron and potassium, it's very high in copper and magnesium, and it's loaded with zinc. So that's what you're getting. You're getting more bang for your buck because you're getting more of those minerals. And you can use cacao powder in any recipe that calls for cocoa. So you just replace it because you're getting more goodness in there. It's a really simple little switch that you can do. So any of the recipes, for example, this is my yearbook 2. Again, lots of chocolate recipes in there. This is one that I make with a hot chocolate. So it's a hot chocolate with sea salt. And I'm using in that, you can use dark chocolate and you can also use cacao powder. So you can make a hot chocolate if you want with cacao or cocoa. And even in the current issue of Earle Wellbeing magazine, the current one, you'll see, this is page 83, chocolate fondant. How good does that look? And that is an amazingly decadent recipe and it calls for dark chocolate. In this recipe, we're using 80% dark chocolate. So I think the message really is look at the percentage of chocolate. You can get really dark chocolate Easter eggs, for example, if that's where you're going this Easter, and just be aware of what we're eating. You know, sometimes people say, what about white chocolate? Well, I'll just finish with that because white chocolate like this, it's not really that chocolatey at all. In fact, some white chocolate doesn't have any cocoa in it. There are no cocoa solids. It's just the cocoa butter mixed with vanilla and flavorings and sugar. So definitely that is something really to be avoided. So the message is go higher in cocoa solids, and if you can, try and look out some cacao powder and add that to your store cupboard for any recipes involving chocolate. So I hope that's helpful. Enjoy. That's the ultimate message. It's good for our good gut bugs. It's good news.